Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right. You know, today's talk was inspired by a little story that happened, but it made me think about just living in our everyday lives. It makes me think about how much technology we have, you know? We live in such amazing times, don't we? We have so much technology, we have so many gadgets, and it's easy for us to forget how things used to be. And for a lot of our younger Dharma school students especially, they can't even remember how things used to be in the old days. You know, in the olden days for me are probably not as old as the olden days for other olden days. I didn't mean to. So, can you imagine a time before there were iPods or before we had these smartphones that can be used as media players, right? We had to listen to radios. So I'll show you this next slide. Kids. Young kids, what is that? Well, luckily we have a heading. It's an old radio. That's a bit of an older radio than I used to listen to, but we used to listen to boom boxes. So we'll show you what one of those looks like. Yeah. The boom box, see? We used to put 6D batteries in it, hold it over our shoulder, boom, boom. That boom box has antennas on it. Do you young kids even know what antennas are for? Okay, but we used to have to stretch up these antennas and get the right, frequency and stuff, It's like, hey, this is Marcus Ellen on KFSFM 102.5, and we'd have to adjust them. And every time you change the station, you had to adjust the antennas. And for us, when we had a favorite song, or what we used to call like a favorite jam back in the day, we had to record them on these boom boxes with a cassette tape, and we'll show you what that looks like. Bam! And we had to label them mixtape. And it was a huge challenge back then because the DJs would speak between songs. Coming up next is another great hit by Katy Perry. You're like, okay, stop talking. And you used to have to hit record and play on the boom. Remember this? At the exact same time. I was good, man. I'd hit record and play and pause. And then right when he'd start, I'd go, unpause. Bam! Pause again. Bam! So my mixtapes were cool. They were just like song after song, So, there was no app store. We couldn't go on to, what do you use, Spotify? You know what I'm saying. We didn't have all that, We couldn't just click a button and listen to our favorite songs, Our songs and our music, it was an investment. And only if you were lucky enough to have a DJ buddy did you have that cool mixtape that actually, I remember, look, I see Steve. Steve made me a whole bunch of mixtapes, I remember. Anyway, see, yeah. Then those are good, professionally mixed together, so you knew somebody if you had a good mixtape. And all you kids now, you go home, you got flat screen TVs. Flat screen TV. We didn't have a flat screen TV. Look what we had. That's, in case you kids didn't know what TV stood for, it stands for television. Televisión, okay? Television set. We didn't have, so when you say 30-inch TV, it's not just 30 inches down the diagonal, it's 30 inches deep, 30 inches high, 30 inches wide, 30 pounds per square inch. That's what 30 meant back then. And obviously, do you see a remote? We don't have remote controls. That's why you kids were born. Go change the channel. Click. Luckily, we only had like 3 or 4 channels back then, So yeah, there was no remote control back then. And here's one more for you guys. Back in the day when we were younger, if you had like in your automobile, if you had power windows, you were like on the wealthy side, man. You were like high tone. So check this out. Do you kids know what see that little gray handle at the bottom? You kids know what that is? Because now, when you roll up to your friends, you're like, hey, what's up, man? We were like, hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? How many Sacramento natives are there here? Sacramento natives. Do you remember the Kentucky Fried Chicken on Freeport Boulevard? Do you remember the drive-thru? What was unique about that drive-thru? Where was the drive-up window? On the passenger side. So back in the 70s and 80s, you'd be like, oh, I can't go by myself. Can I get the door? and it's always in a big old bag. And it got a little easier in the 90s. You'd be like, haha, yeah, drop it in the seat now. You know. So anyway, that's not in any of the notes. Anyway. And then here's another thing. Okay, one more thing. Now you got cell phones. You guys text each other. We didn't text each other. Here's what we did for each other. Now, when it first started, it was for doctors and lawyers and important people. And then it became for the masses. You know, hey, what's up, man? Beat me, page me, man, page me. You know what I mean? And we didn't have cell phones back then, so you have to go to a payphone and call them back. And then that's where they first started pager language, right? All the numbers. And remember, they had special numbers, 911, you know, call me emergency and this and that. And then you'd flip it upside down and spell a word. I mean, stuff like that. So this is way before LOL, you know, and all that stuff. I don't even know what SMH. I hope I'm not saying a bad one, you know. But that's not a bad one, right? That's, okay. So that was it. I mean, this was, when you had a pager, you were a baller, you know. You had a pager. You're like, hey, what's up? You'd wear it proudly on your belt outside, you know. You'd be like, hey, man, I got a pager. I'm important, you know. All right. So here's another one. I know this is longer than I thought. Okay, one more, two more. Next one, bam. Now, you kids sit up here and tell me, I don't want to type my term paper. And I say, kids, even high school, I got to type my report. It's so hard. You think typing a report is hard. Now, you all use one of those bad boys right there. You'd be like, back in the mid-1700s, oh, you don't even know what whiteout is. When we made a mistake with that, we had to get out this little paint, take it out, and paint the white on the thing. and then, backspace, 1700s, you know, and hit it, and then retype over it, you know, and then we'd have to hit that return, you know, that's a return bar to get to the next line. So, you know, you guys have word processors, you got it made. You got it made. All right, so last one, right? Let's see what this next thing is. Young kids, what is that? Well, Grandma Bachon has one of those. I know what that is. Telephone, man. Oh, my goodness. Telephone. Now, this is old school because now you guys have auto dial. Probably most of you dial your friends on your mobile phone anyway, even when you're at home. Why? Because your address book is on there. I am willing to bet that for you younger generation, you barely know the phone numbers of your friends. I bet you don't even know them. I mean, I still know, they're not, anyway, I know the Hoshida's phone number. I know Mark Amioka's phone number. I know them because when we're in Scouts, we'd call them all the time. I was even going to say it right now, but call up Mark Amioka if you know. So, but, you know, and because dialing a friend back in the day, that was a commitment. That meant something. To call you up on the phone right now, that doesn't mean anything. Call Haley Arakaki. You know, calling Haley Arakaki. You know, like, that's what it always does, right? And then you call them. That's not a commitment. Back in the day, it'd be like, 4, 5, 8. Oh, it was 9. You got to start all over. That's why we didn't have 911 back then. It's an emergency. 9. You know, anyway, so. But that's the telephone. So that's the last one. Okay, that's the last slide. So you can turn that off. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. Now, I understand that this technology is not as old as some of the other technology. There is technology even older. But what I wanted to show, especially the younger generation, is that that was not that long ago. That was only 10, 20 years ago. Not that long. And look at how far things have come and things have changed. We have become so dependent on technology that we lose touch with how things even work nowadays, huh? And this is what led to all this story that happened to someone who we won't mention, my wife. It happened to, and one of her good buddies, okay? And this is our good friend. And after it happened to them, I told them straight up, right when it happened, I'm going to tell this story at church in front of hundreds of people and online. It's just going to happen. They're like, no! Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So my wife Janet and her good buddy Kaori, we'll just say it, good buddy Kaori. Okay, so they have a Honda Odyssey, as many of you do in this congregation. There's a lot in the parking lot. They have a Honda Odyssey. They're going to the craft store or something, and they came home, and the kids were all playing inside the house. They drove home in the Honda Odyssey. The garage door opened. They pulled into the garage. Everything was perfect. And right when they took the key out, well, right before the key came out, complete power shutdown in the Odyssey. And as you know, in these Honda Odyssey touring models, it is all electronic, right? So she pulls the key out, and she's all like, she can't open the door. And in my wife's defense, it's not her car, so I'm not going to give her a hard time. But they're in the car, and they can't open the door. She pulls out the key remote, and she's hitting the door unlock, door unlock, door unlock. There's no power in the van. So they're in there. They call inside the house because Kaori's husband's in the house playing with the kids. Ellie and the kids are in there. Well, they're making baking soda volcanoes. So they're in the house going, she's dialing, I'm trapped in the van. I'm trapped in. And she's 25 feet away from them, right? So they're not picking up the phone. Luckily, I'm at home. So she calls me on the phone. I'm like, what are you calling me for? You guys aren't even home yet. She goes, we're trapped in the van. And she knows I'm going to just give it to her, so she doesn't, I'm the last person you want to call. So she's all, I'm trapped in the van, I'm trapped in the van. I go, are you sick? What do you mean you're trapped? Well, the power just completely died. We can open the garage door. We have the remote for that. Come on, whatever. Okay, I'm coming over, fine. And as I'm getting into the car, I'm all like, you can't be trapped in a van. I called her back. I go, it's impossible. You cannot be trapped in a van. You guys got smartphones. Google how to get out of a van. This problem is so silly that there is no solution to it because it's never happened to anybody. No one gets trapped in the van. So I said, and they go, you're still coming, right? I'm coming. Don't worry. Pace your breathing. There's not that much oxygen in an Odyssey. Breathe through one nose. It'll be like half a person, right? You'll double your air supply. So obviously I roll up, the garage door's open because they can control that. Okay, so, and I'm rolling up with my headlights and I come right behind the van. As I roll up with my headlights, Janet turns around because she sees the headlights and she goes, oh, click. There's the door lock button on the side. It's one of the pull-up knobs. In their defense, modern cars today have the door lock next to the latch, with the little flippity thing in the latch. So they looked all over there, and they're like, this car's so technologically advanced, there's no manual door lock. Janet turns and goes, click. So by the time I roll up, they come out of the car, and they're like, and I'm like, so I come out of the car, and I'm like, really? You know? And then by then, too, Mike comes out, what's going on out here? I'm like, now you come out, dude? So anyway, they're laughing. So anyway, the point is the moment it happened, I go, I'm just going to tell this story to church. I'm sorry. So, yeah, Kaori's a good friend of ours. She's a Girl Scout here, and I will point her out to you. She's going to be so embarrassed. Anyway, but again, believe it or not, there is a point to this story. And that's what led me to bring you all those pictures of that old technology. You know, everything that we use in today's modern world involves so much technology now that we are so used to doing everything at the push of a button, right? So when she pulls her remote out and that button, that's the only way she knows how to unlock the door. You know, and when it doesn't work, she's completely at a loss. And we don't realize this. Even the water we drink, the electricity that we use, the gas we cook with, you know, the cars that we drive, everything. Every one of these things is only possible through the coordinated efforts of so many countless people working in harmony. So many people, every single button we press, right? So it just really, really teaches us and really, really reemphasizes how connected we all are. And we talk about this. How am I connected? Well, this is how. We are all connected in this world. The efforts of somebody now 1,000 miles away provide us with these services, right? And conveniences for us to enjoy. Nothing happens without people working together. And we have to remember this, and we have to be humbled by this, each and every day. So think about the next time you push a button and something just magically happens, right? Just pause for a brief moment and soak in what it really takes to make that action possible. Think of all those people that have to get together and work together in harmony to make it work. We are more dependent on each other than ever before. Complete strangers make our everyday lives possible, right? We all exist because of each other. So I tell you, and I challenge you, I say, we are all dependent on each other. So let's all try to be just a little more patient with one another, huh? Because we need each other. We rely on each other. Let's try to be a little more patient. Let's try to say thank you a little more often in our everyday. Let's try to say please just a little bit more often every day. And just throw out a smile, a simple smile. These little things that can show appreciation for our fellow human being, they can go a really long way, especially because we really need each other to get anything done. And most importantly, let's try to forgive a little bit more too. Let's try to forgive each other just a little bit more. And I'm not just talking about friends, I'm talking about complete strangers as well. So if we show each other a little more gratitude and a little more understanding, this world can be a lot better place, especially since we're all working together anyway, right? So with that, please join me in closing Gassho. I press a button and the TV turns on. I thank the person that manufactured the TV. I thank the retailer that sold me the TV. I thank the people that worked at the power company that supply the electricity to my home. And the list is endless. Every button pressed requires the effort of more people than you could ever imagine. One button, many people, we are all connected. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.